So today for the Mastery series, we're welcoming in Jessica Martindale, who is not only a friend, a mentor, she's a colleague, she's an incredible clinician and coach. She currently lives in Boulder, Colorado. And when I thought about the Mastery series and who I wanted for this series, I was like, 100% Jessica Martindale needs to come on. She she just like knows her stuff, walks the walk. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome to this interview all about accessing the inner sage, our inner sage. Thanks for
Hi.
being here. Yeah, hi. So I want to just dive in. First, there's a lot happening out there. There's lots of videos, there's lots of podcasts, there's lots of episodes, there's all these things. And it's like, what anybody that's one of our immersion members, like, what are they in for? Like, why are they going to sit here and listen to this conversation that I think is so important?
Um, there is so much out there. I think I get nervous before conversations like this because my hope is always, may we say something, if not new, in a way that's maybe, oh, I hear it differently for the first time. And so, who is this conversation for? This is for the people who are experiencing so much stress and so much overwhelm that it's hard to make decisions, who are maybe externalizing their validation. So, what that could look like, it's not like, I don't know what to have for dinner. What do you think we should have? This is more of the, do you think I should move? Do you think I should date this guy? We're externalizing our knowing because we're overwhelmed, because we're stressed. And so, how do we bring it back to us, to our inner sage? This also, just to like stress, overwhelm, the other end of the spectrum is someone who's operating from a really mechanical place
Mhm.
that's maybe not inspired or like coming from that well of fulfillment where it's aligned, or there's really like momentum and energy. Maybe it's just we're going through the motions and we're a bit lulled to sleep by life.
Yeah.
And so that's who this conversation is for. Why does it matter? Um, if we are not attuned to our own selves, then we're missing our lives.
Hmm. Mm.
If we're lulled to sleep, then we're not wide awake. And, as far as we know, we get this one go at it. So I want to live it really wide awake.
Hmm. Okay. Wow. So, um, yeah, then this is why I think this conversation is important because that's like where you just took us is like, okay, like this is like if you want to like live your life in a way that feels alive or that you can, yeah, be in a state of awareness at least, some of the time during the day, like just to be present. It's like this, all of this matters when we're talking about the inner sage. It's like, yes, there's a part maybe that feels a bit like woo woo or a bit like whimsical. It's like, who is this inner sage? Like, who are we talking about? Who's this wise one? But it's like there's something that is so like concrete about it too. There's something that's so real and so accessible about the inner sage. And I'm like, thank you for already taking us there. When I was thinking about like this conversation and why I think it's important for the immersion members to access it and to learn about it is like I think it's something that we talk about a lot, like mindfulness and, you know, terms, like things that people are like, just do this and just like talk to this person. Um and I think that I really appreciate when people can like break it down. And I appreciate when people are like, well, this is my experience with it. And like this is how I've been able to access it. Because sometimes it's like, well, we're just told do this, but without knowing like what are some of the steps that, perhaps people like you have taken to get there. And when I think about my own journey of kind of my self-exploration of like, who am I without these coping skills that didn't work for me? Or who am I like post breakup? Or who am I post like career transition? Being able to have had an anchor like an inner sage, a wise sage, a higher self, whatever people want to call it, has been like fundamental because it's like we already are in a society that makes us feel quite alone and like that we do have to figure things out on our own and it's like it's our problem against everyone else's and really it's like being able to bring in this energetic being or whatever it is for somebody, which we'll talk about right now, has felt really helpful for me because it's like, oh, I'm not alone and I have somebody that I feel like can talk to me and guide me down a path that perhaps maybe I wouldn't have gone down because I was scared to. So yeah, I'd love for you, if you can, to kind of tell me like what is the inner sage to you? Like how do you define this?
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
I love what you said. You used the word anchor, and that's what this is. This is, hey, lots going on out there right now, guys, and lots going on always. We are not in a unique time.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot pulling. I'm sorry, my dog's right here, clicky clacking. There is so much pulling our attention. We have more access to things than ever, blah, blah, blah. We all know that spiel. We've got on these little phones, this technology that can take us 1,000 places, and there we can easily become unanchored. And so for me, my unanchoring was far before technology. And I think it's helpful to just share this part of my personal journey, which is I grew up with a parent with some pretty severe mental illness. And so what that looked like for me was becoming, as this incredible author, Terry Cole, she wrote a book called Too Much High Functioning Codependency. And I coped by becoming a very high functioning codependent. What
Mhm.
that looked like is, okay, if I can navigate that parent successfully, then maybe I will get a moment of connection today. Or maybe they won't be so mad. Or maybe she won't snap at me if I anticipate her needs. And so what that created in me was this auto accommodating, let me think through everything that's going to make you have a pleasant time experiencing me. It was anticipatory planning. Okay, we're going to, you know, this person's going to be entering the scene. I know that always makes you feel this way. So let me go ahead and buffer for this. I mean, it is exhausting. It is an exhausting way to live. It looked like knowing this parent's feelings and emotions, honestly, probably better than she knew them herself.
Mhm.
Um, because if I knew her feelings and emotions, then I could navigate them. And it was all this like to keep self-preservation, to keep myself okay.
Mhm.
The trap in that is now I have spent so much time studying my parent, trying to figure out how to stay safe in the world, that I did not spend that time that kids, I mean, I'm a parent now to a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they are so selfish and it is good. They're supposed to be. They're supposed to be learning their preferences and what makes them, tick and what do they like and what do they love. I
Mhm.
missed that. And I think I'm not alone in this. I think there's a lot of us out there that maybe it wasn't as extreme as I experienced it, but some version of if I can focus on you and study you and make sure you're okay,
Mhm.
then I'm okay.
Mhm.
But now I don't know me and I don't know what makes me feel good. I don't know what tickles me or what I want to avoid. So I say yes to everything.
Mhm.
Or I will pick up the phone when a sibling calls, even though it's not a good time for me, because I want them to know I'm right here with you. So it's that whole like, when is loyalty to other people? When does that become self-harm?
Mhm.
Like I have been in these traps where I'm just moving so fast and repeating all the behaviors I learned at such a young age, even though I've had decades of therapy, this still happens, son of a gun. Um, that if I am not slowing down to connect with my inner wisdom, I'm committing to things that are not aligned, that are out of my integrity. I am overscheduled and then I'm not present with the people that actually matter the most to me. Like there's some real serious consequences to this. And
Mhm.
again, I don't think I'm alone on this. I think this is also there's a lot of accolades for operating in this way. You want something done quickly and efficiently, I'm your girl. Like you want to see how far we can take this thing. How hard can we push? Like for a long time, that's been me. And
Right.
I think, and I hope it's okay that I say this, but you and I've been in the trenches together. Like that's been you too. Like we push, we are efficient.
Yeah. Right. It's like the safety is in the doing, and
Yes.
so yeah, it's like not safe to just like be and sit there and like as you were talking about with, your parent that you kind of had to like watch and serve to because then that made you feel like okay, well then it's safe, like then at least I know what to expect versus probably like if that didn't happen, if you didn't step in, it's like what will happen today, like what's the
Yes.
outcome going to be. And so I think that that's you learned at a young age, I learned in my own way, right, with parents that you know tried their best to give me good lessons and say, hey, you have to work really hard and like strive for excellence all the time. And but I think with that kind of like it was much less about you also do you want to like stay with your emotions? Do you want to like be, do you want to check in with yourself? And I think that's something, yeah, it's like then you learn, okay, I'm gonna do because that's like safer than just like sitting here and like chilling or checking in with myself. And which I think ties into the inner sage, the wise sage, in the sense that of like it could be probably easy for people to associate it with something that you do when you rest, something that you do when like it's not that important, because it's not like this tangible like thing in front of you, like a to-do list that you're like, well, if I do this or if I go on a run, then this happens, right? But it's like to access the inner sage, I think is sometimes it feels like it for people, maybe, and you could talk about like maybe where people kind of get stuck or like how do they kind of like go down that road of like how to access this inner sage. It's like they might feel like, "Ugh, I'm not even going to go there because it's like hard to I can't see it. It's something I have to kind of try to like believe in or trust in. And, it's safer to do or it's safer to not do, like depending where people are in their life, right? So, yeah, like what would you say that you see like pattern wise with people trying to access the inner sage? Like how easy is it for people to do it? And why do they, maybe get stuck on doing it? Or how would they even start? So there's a couple of questions, but yeah.
Yeah. Man, I my own experience is my greatest teacher. I've got lots of different trainings and modalities, blah, 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 but like it's my own accessing of this that has helped me most. Um, I have learned if I am moving so quickly, then I'm not making really intentional decisions. And so the biggest piece of this is actually slowing down, which makes people who are, in fifth gear getting down to third or second, like that is the car is like shaking and like what's happening.
I can
And
feel
so,
everything.
yes. And so I think a really kind, gentle way to do this is to titrate. So for me, this started with sitting and meditating or like going deep in my psyche and finding that place within
Mhm.
was awful, was terrible. I needed like to stay in motion with it. And so for me, a big piece of this was learning what is my version of meditation as I'm slowing down enough. Now I can meditate and it feels great. But the transition to get here was started with walking meditations, which for me was literally putting on something to listen to, someone guiding me through, a walking meditation, feel your feet kiss the earth, that kind of thing. And I'm rolling my eyes at this as I'm doing it. Whatever, I'll try it. I need help, so I'll try anything. And so going on those walks, which were really fast walks, and then going on a slower walk, and then getting to a place where I could sit down and actually just journal and go, okay, when have I been in alignment? What did that feel like when I was in alignment? Alignment being, even though people probably didn't like how I acted, it felt good to me.
Mhm.
So, what were those ingredients? okay, it was I was spending more time in nature. It was I was surrounding myself with people who are also seeking this and trying to figure this out. Um, there's a lot of talk right now about self-love, which yes, important. I think it's even more so for me has been self-knowledge. I need to learn me. I
Mhm.
know that if I hang out with that person, I'm going to speed up. And when I speed up, I'm in risky territory. So I need to, like, if I'm going to hang out with them, I need to know how am I going to slow myself down? Is it a hot shower where I literally am just focusing on feeling the waterfall on my face? Or do I pull out a salt scrub and like literally focus on the sensation, like training your mind to just be where you are? It's one of the hardest things I think we do, especially in, the year of 2025.
Mhm.
You asked so many great questions and I'm forgetting them.
So, well, let me just ask from that place, like so I hear some of the rituals that you could do to kind of get present or be with yourself in some way. So tell me, like, break down then how does the inner sage play a role there? Like, does it come before, after, middle? Like, yeah.
For me, I needed to learn how to go from fifth gear to third gear to even start to hear my own inner sage. She was so buried. And
Hmm.
so, through some really beautiful healers that I was open to working with, that intimidated the heck out of me. They led me through getting to know my younger parts and then getting to know what that means is for people who are like, what a internal family systems started by a guy named Dick Schwartz. It's kind of this concept that we're all at a we're at a conference table and you've got your teenage self over there and you've got your rescuer over here and your firefighters who are like, we're gonna save the day no matter what, if it's our fire to fight or not. And you've got your 3-year-old who's like, can anyone see me? Like, I just want to play. So you've got all these parts of us at the table, and so who's at the head of the table? And for me, a lot of my life, it's been that little girl who was trying to manage my parent was at the front of the table. And that it no longer was my parent, it became my friends, and then it became my partner, and it evolved. The person I was across from evolved, but that little girl was the same. And so that little girl needed a parent. And so that just visualizing for me, the conference table was really helpful. Who's at the front of the conference table? Who's driving the school bus? Are you going to have a little kid drive a school bus? No, you're going to have a grown up who knows the rules of the road. So for me, it was being guided through understanding what are these parts of myself, and then who is the what version do I want making the decisions? So this started, which you know this because I've personally shared this with you many times, but for me, I couldn't access my own wisdom. So I still, so I would enlist other people to be that for me. For me, for a long time, it's been Maya Angelou. And she always is making banana bread. And it's this beautiful room that in my mind I go visit her in. And she always says, oh, baby, tell me. And it just feels so cozy and nurturing. And I feel like, oh, thank God Maya's here and she can help me. Um, and then as it's evolved, it's become me, but adult me, grown me, sometimes 85-year-old me, who also still has Maya there. And then Mary Oliver joined the scene. For me, it's become this whole like grand imagination thing. If that sounds so fetched for people who are listening, don't be discouraged by that because it doesn't, that's my version. Your
Mhm.
version may be very different. Your version may just be the ritual of lighting the candle and then asking yourself, okay, if I listen to myself, what do I know about this situation already? What feels out of alignment or what feels heavy right now? And then when your gut speaks, when your second brain speaks, listen. Don't stay around for the data to prove why your gut was right. I think that's like massive maturity and something I'm trying to instill in my daughters as they're so young. If your gut speaks, listen to it. You don't have to wait.
Mhm. And so how for people that are like, well, my gut's like led me astray. Okay. Like, or my gut, I thought it was my gut, but it was just like a fear, like quick, like this is the way, this is the thing we're gonna do. We're gonna jump into this relationship or this job, and later on realizing like, oh, actually that was like I was
Yeah.
scared and I kind of thought it was my wisdom. So it's like there's like the wisdom piece and then there's like the fear piece. And it's like how does someone that might be like, I don't know if I could even trust my gut, like what do you do in that situation, and how can you begin to strengthen that while also bringing up the inner sage?
Gosh, that's a good question. And a question I'm gonna flip on you once I give my answer, because I feel like you'll have a beautiful answer to that too. Um, I think a big piece is taking the time to reflect back on those times when my gut led me astray. Was it because my desire spoke louder? I always wanted to be a boy mom. I don't want to repeat this mother-daughter cycle. Boy mom, boy mom, boy mom. Devastation when I found out I was going to be a girl mom times two. Devastation. Like in 6 weeks of recovery, devastation. I felt like my gut led me so astray. But then after really sitting with trusted people and that helped me process, and by the way, helping me process isn't just telling me this is what you're feeling. Helping me process is helping me slow down enough to go, oh, you were just scared you're going to repeat that cycle, that mother-daughter cycle.
Mm,
Yep, that's it. So I just, I worked with a client who fought to save her dog, like poured all of their savings account into saving their dog, and she didn't save her dog.
mm,
Um, rocked her sense of, can I trust myself? And I
mhm,
think if we pause on those really big moments where we thought we could trust our gut and it led us astray, I'm curious, did our desire for that thing to come to fruition speak louder?
mhm, mm,
And then also how beautiful, hi, beautiful human. Of course you're gonna fight for your dog to live. Like what a gift you gave your animal by fighting for them. Like giving yourself permission to forgive yourself when it wasn't right.
mm. Yeah.
Um, and the fear piece, man, that's a doozy. Am I just scared? This is where I do think putting pen to paper is helpful. What's based in reality and what's based in like all my catastrophizing mind
Mhm.
that's always looking for the worst case scenario. I'm curious, how do you kind of like siphon out what is my true wisdom, that wisdom that's like ancient and just like right here, and what is desire and what is fear?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think what you're sharing is like helpful, and I think the pen to paper has been really helpful for me. But yeah, I think sometimes it's like fear, like to me, if I'm gonna just like quickly describe what it like if someone's like act like fear, I'd be like, ah, like, and then if you were like act like excitement, like this wisdom, like yes, like I know this thing, it's also like like it's like you're on a roller coaster, and it's like so they're kind of on the same spectrum of like it could be easy to subtly be like, oh, that was like fear versus like, oh, that was like excitement, wisdom, like that, this intuition of like, hell yes, I know what's happening, because they're kind of the same. Like if you look at,
Well,
please, yeah.
even from a physiological level, excitement and anxiety both pump the adrenals, so it's easy to get confused on what it is. Am I excited or am I stressed the F out? Because
Totally.
my body speaks the same way. That's so true. Keep going.
And I
Sorry.
think the difference, like the only difference that changes there is breath, is like being able to slow it down and being able to like take a couple deep breaths and be like, okay, let me like actually look at this again. even bird's eye view and kind of see like what's happening for me. And I think that's why when you're talking about pen to paper and being like, what am I catastrophizing? What am I making this mean? What am I saying could happen, versus like what's actually happening in this moment? Like those things have been really helpful for me with this process. I think it's really hard. I think sometimes, we get like we do something and then it doesn't work, and then we label that as like that's really scary, so never again. Versus like I think maybe this is where the inner sage has helped me is like having this kind of anchor, this person that's head at the table, be like, oh no, like first of all, like you said, like you're human and it's okay that you went this way, but also like, God, what did this experience teach you? So kind of like incorporating more of a reframe when like we're like, well, what if fear leads the way versus like the wisdom? It's like I think being able to look at whatever has happened or happens and being like, oh, okay, like there's something to learn here. And I think my inner sage is always helping, like stroking my hair, kind of being like, oh, sweet one, like, what can we learn from this experience versus like, I'm never going to trust my gut again because it's lead me astray. Um,
That's what we all want, right? What you described, your inner sage is stroking your hair. My inner sage is eating banana bread. Like our nervous systems genuinely want to be in a state of parasympathetic where we're safe and social, where our imagination can be expand, where we can access spontaneity. When we're like in this heightened sense, we can't access truth. And so I love that your inner sage and my inner sage are both like so soothing and so non-judgmental, but also asking the hard questions of, okay, what can you learn from this?
Mhm.
Not with shame, not with judgment, just with like, hey, we're not going to miss the opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Gently,
Yeah.
gently grow.
And what about like for people that might feel like, well, it's hard to trust people. So it's like maybe someone's like, I don't really trust people. I feel like they've let me down or, whatever. Maybe that's a story, maybe that's the actual reality or the experience. But so for those people that are like, I don't want to access some person because people don't help me feel safe. What are other ways or things like what can the inner sage be for somebody? I know you mentioned like lighting a candle. So is it like an inner
Mhm.
sage can be a person, it can be energy, can be a ritual. Like could you break that down a little bit?
Yeah. Um, I know what it's like to not trust people. And if anybody who's listening to this is in that spot, I'm sorry. You learn not to trust people because they haven't been trustworthy or because you've been hurt over and over and over. And um, as a psychotherapist, I feel very aware of this dichotomy of everything you need is within you. And we don't get anywhere without other people.
Yeah.
We get hurt with people, but we heal with people. And so maybe it's this everything I need is within me is where we need to start to grow our discernment of knowing who is safe or oh, this person is safe for pizza parties on Friday, but not for hey, here's my mama trauma.
Yeah.
This person is safe to go to karaoke with, but I'm not going to process the relationship that I'm in right now. So I
Mhm.
think maybe we start with everything I need is within me because I think these things are equally true. It's just when do they orbit into the front zone? Um, if everything I need is already within me, for me there was a lot of grief in that because I just wanted someone outside of me to come in and go, "Hey, I got you. I got this. This mess, like I just wanted an adult to show up and to take care of things." So I just want to acknowledge like there may be grief in "Ugh, me again, but let this be different. This is not me again to take care of all of this. This is me again to meet me." And so for those high functioning folk out there, you know you're good at taking care of people. of situations. And so what if we begin channeling that energy towards yourself in a
Mm,
different way, in a gentle way, not to control, but just to um, attune, be in tune with self.
mm,
Pen to paper, yes. Journaling is so helpful, and there's so many resources I'd be happy to share with your community around this. One of my favorites is Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. Ali Fallon is an incredible person to follow as well, who gives lots of beautiful prompts that are really gentle. Um, it also can be, for me too. And so I'm saying this, I'm like looking out at trees. I need nature
mm,
because nature is actually bigger than me and has a whole ecosystem and ecosystems within the ecosystems that just feel so good. They don't need me at all to manage them. And so just letting myself be held by Mother Earth feels really helpful. Um, Music can feel really helpful. It's like how you were saying earlier so beautifully, like how do we slow it down enough to breathe,
mm.
to just hear our breath like it's the in and the out of an ocean?
Yeah.
Um, and meet ourselves with gentleness,
Mm.
which was hard to do if we feel like we've been led astray by our gut or by our intuition before. Don't
Yeah.
give up.
Yeah, and it reminds me too, like, I think what you were talking about, where it's like sometimes maybe the story for somebody is like, I have to do everything on my own, or I can't trust the people, and so I've got to do it all. And that has definitely been my experience. A lot of my narrative has been like, I can't really rely on people, or like, yes, they love me, but like to a certain degree, it's like there's a condition tied to it or something like that. And a powerful practice for me has really been in like being able to, if we talk about like the parts and we've got the like the inner, the little child within, for me, it's like, okay, I'm there and I'm like helping her and I'm like, it's okay. Like I'll be like the person you need. And then sometimes I'm like, I'm tired. Like I need somebody to take care of me. And I think that is where the practice of bringing in an inner sage can be helpful so that even the inner sage could be nature, could be a mountain. It doesn't have to be some like
Yeah.
human-like person or character, but it's like just knowing like when I lean back against this tree, when I lean my back on this tree, or when I lay down on the grass, or when I close my eyes and can picture Maya Angelou or Mary Oliver or somebody that I admire, just hold me. And maybe I'm now holding my little girl, you know what I mean? It's like, or all the worries or holding the stress. That like that is enough. And that is like the healing, like it's such a healing process because it's like it doesn't take much effort to be like, okay, like just even indicating to yourself, when I lay down on the grass, like the earth is supporting me, literally, or like feeling your back against the trunk of a tree. It's like there's something sturdy there. And I think for me with the inner sage, it's been a lot about like going from something like that, which is like, I'll let the mountains like kind of help. I'm going to go on a hike and maybe I'll just put all my like worries out there and see what happens. But then being able to, with practice, bring in a more kind of almost spiritual like experience where it's like I can close my eyes and access this ethereal like being, and she's like in her 50s and she wears like silky long gowns and she like hovers a lot like angelic in ways, and it's like um yeah, and she's always like they're there now, they're there, and that's like it's like a pulse, it's a mantra that I can like come back to. So it's like you can, I guess my point of in sharing this is like you can access the inner sage in so many different ways. And it's like there's not one right way to do it. And it's just so supportive in knowing that like you are actually not alone in the experience, even though sometimes, many times, it feels like that, or you've been told that, or people have left and that's made you believe, no, no, I'm alone in this. And it's like, no, no, like you have the mountains here, or the trees, or the grass, or that lighting the candle and knowing the flame is there, and that's like that's a protectiveness around you like that, and that encircles you. Yeah. So,
It it goes to I think I think a couple things are coming up as I'm listening to you is one, when I get into those places where I'm like pushing so hard to save somebody, to make them see X, I've assumed this role of I know what lesson they need to learn in this lifetime, which is just ridiculous and incredibly narcissistic of me to think if I can just manage a situation, I'm assuming that I know what needs to be learned here. So I think a huge piece of what you're sharing is like this acknowledging our humanness and our limitedness. And in that, we can access limitlessness. But I cannot save this family member. There's grief with that. Absolutely. And so where do I go with that grief that's safe? And I appreciate just taking the time to explore like outside of community, because community is a huge piece of this, I think, too. But if that doesn't feel comfortable outside of community, there's so many places to go to bring this. You also talking about like the ethereal and the angelic. I grew up in a very rigid religious system that for a long time I've needed to almost like exfoliate from myself and figure out, okay, who I have choice.
yeah.
I have permission to like disagree and to rediscover and to redefine. And so outside has been really helpful to help me redefine what is sturdiness? Who is God? Do I believe in God?
Mhm.
How expansive could God be? What is God in me? Like, ask these questions that I wasn't allowed to ask growing up, but feel really nourishing to ask now. Um, and so if faith is something that gives comfort, I think absolutely bringing in your faith structure to this process is really important because there's something, you know what the beauty of faith is there's more than we could even know.
Yeah.
Like there's that relief in that of this is greater than me, this is bigger than me,
Yeah.
something big than me can hold me here, can meet me. Like
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
No, and I think too, it's like, and I think if faith is difficult for somebody, like, because yeah, I grew up in a religious household, and yeah, it's like it also could be defined as, for me, it's like your belief system. What could feel nice to believe in, and if that just starts with being like, I just believe the ocean's been here longer than me, it's like, okay, let's start there. Like you could just start there at that place. Like that's fine. Or it's
Yes.
like, I believe that there's this person out there that has these qualities that I really admire. It's like, okay, write those down. What are those? What are the like, it's like you can work, the belief system does tie into, I think, the inner sage in some way. It depends on like, I went from religious to like, okay, I'm going to extend this out to nature, and it turned spiritual. But that's my journey. That doesn't have to be anybody else's. Like, it doesn't matter what you believe in. I think it's more about like, is there something that you can hold on to? And it's like that can become your inner sage I think if people practice going there, right? Like kind of practice calling it in, you
Yeah.
know, wherever they're at. And yeah, I'm curious if there's a couple, I think you mentioned one earlier, a couple of prompts that if somebody were to practice like calling the inner sage in, or closing their eyes and getting there, or going to the mountains, it's like what are a couple prompts that you like to say to kind of see if that conversation arises?
Absolutely. Going back to self-knowledge first and foremost, knowing self, knowing when do I feel in alignment
Mhm.
physically, what does that feel like? Take it out of just your brain, your beautiful brain, and just trickle it down your body. When I'm in alignment, my heart rate is slower. I don't feel so swirly. I feel my sits bones in my chair. When I am out of alignment, I feel buzzy and almost like my head turns into a balloon that's just floating around, going like, let's hope this works out. Or I don't even feel my head at all.
Yeah.
Um, Taking the time to get to know those physical cues, fantastic start. If there's a particular situation that you're trying to sit with, I wrote some down here. Um, if I truly listen to myself, what do I already know about this situation? What message does my inner wisdom want me to hear? What message does my inner wisdom want me to hear? That requires slowing down enough to hear it. Um, Elizabeth Gilbert has those prompts that I know you like too. Dear love, what do you want me to know today?
Mhm.
What are some of the other ones? She's got great prompts.
The one I turned to. Yeah, what would you have me know about this experience? Like, yeah, and using love as her own, love has become her own kind of inner sage, it's like, and using pen to paper to kind of unlock the box that's within us
Yep.
that says like we have to do this alone, or this is you're in it by yourself, or you can't trust people. It's like there's like a key and you can unlock it, and within that the inner sage is there, the your anchors, your guides. I mean, things that people can practice over time. um but yeah, all things Elizabeth Gilbert.
All things. What I love about that question, dear love, dear wisdom, is it immediately separates us so that we're not, when we're in the of life, we take things personally, we make assumptions, we just see what's right here and going, dear love, and talking to ourselves from that perspective, dear wisdom, we immediately step back and now we're observing a situation. We're observing the situation that is our life as though our life is on a play. What's going on in this play? Do we even like these characters having this much time on the stage? Like that space
Yeah.
gives perspective that we have to access in order to live a life that's on purpose with intention.
And I think that's such a beautiful reminder. Yeah, it's like how the third eye, bird's eye view of like what you're experiencing sometimes, so it's not so close, but then, it gives space for everybody to show up, all your people, all your parts, all the things, So yeah, that's a helpful reminder. Um what So we have some rituals, we have some prompts, we have like, you kind of shared a bit about your own experience of how to access the inner sage. What does your inner sage want to share with everyone listening here?
Why does that question make me want to cry? That's so sweet. What if we all just went around asking that question? Let me check in. This is not time that will be wasted. Pursuing, getting to know that voice that has perspective beyond our situation will make us kinder, more loving people who are doing life on purpose. It makes us more trustworthy because our yes is actually a yes, not out of duty, but out of desire. And so our no protects us and protects the people we're across from. More than anything else, though, our no helps us not abandon ourselves.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Ask you the same question because I want to hear what your beautiful sage has for us.
And thank you for yeah, just like even the way, yeah, even the way that you've shared that too, just like nothing is wasted is really like what I took from that. Nothing, no time, no like the experiences, what we talked about earlier about listening to like what if the gut leads you a certain way and then you're like, oh my God, that's not the way I want. Like I didn't, that was not it, and but nothing's really wasted. And I think the inner sage can always be there to remind us of that. Um, yeah, let's see what my sweet ethereal woman is saying. Yeah. So for me, she's like kind of yeah, I almost pictured her like the wisdom just behind me, kind of in a protected like protection, like encompassed, kind of wanting to like hold me, saying, go gently, go gently. Um, yeah, and I think in real time, like in these moments when I can access it, when I can kind of hear and get quiet for a moment and see what's being said, sometimes it's like if I have the opportunity to be around somebody, like physically in front of me, my partner, or a friend, and like I just felt that energy from this like inner sage that was kind of like around me. It's like, oh, like maybe I'll go give this person a hug, like in real time. So it's like kind of bringing the things that I'm energetically maybe experiencing and bringing it into the real world. Um, but yeah, I think for everyone listening, just like, yeah, go gently on yourself, on your family, on your kids, on your life, on your decisions. Like, we're not meant to be perfect and get everything right. And it's just, yeah, life is like beautifully messy. And it's like if we can lean into that experience and not stomp around it, and just be like, okay, yeah, I'm here, and today I feel tender, today I feel happy, and it's like
Yeah.
riding the waves.
Yeah, absolutely.